The topic of this panel, you can think about it informally, it's something like social XR meets AI, okay? So we have a lot of work that the community has been doing on social XR, a lot of things discussed here in these 2 days, but also in the meantime, something quite dramatic happened in the AI world, and so we will well, we were supposed to see 3 examples. We will see 2 examples of work on social AI with brain-machine interfaces, neurophysiological interfaces. And then we will ask the questions, which I hope will be stimulating, which is how is this all going to be, how is the AI source going to mix all this up? So maybe we said you will start with your presentation. You will present yourself, Rupert Ortner from GTech. Yes, please.
I'm starting. Oh, then that'd be certainly good to start. Okay, so my slides have been evaporated, vanished. What doesn't matter. What can be said with slides can be said without slides. I'm actually going to start with an anecdote. I've been working with a few artists, and one artist is a woman from Ukraine, and she wrote a VR opera, which is not very long, it's like half an hour. It has images and sounds, of course, and the sounds are predictably drones, bombs, all the sort of stuff that is the daily soundscape of Kyiv, where she is based. So she has this VR opera, and we are actually organizing an art exhibition in Milan in October. And the question, the curator was, I mean, we don't want to restrict people to having an HDM on, so we are actually going to show this VR opera in a conventional setting. We've got to build a little box that will allow 4 people to look at the same time, rather than each individually separated in their own HDM universe. No, that of course raises a very interesting question, namely, what is the nature of the experience, whether of your experience in VR or in your experience in non-VR high-quality video images, possibly 360-degree video. But the critical thing, of course, is being alone or being together with other people. And I did like I improvised some data gathering about this, and it turns out people have completely different opinions on that. Some people, I mean, I found it very hard to experience that VR opera, because they are like really frightening sounds, and dogs are howling whenever there is a drone coming near, etc. You can imagine. Some people said no, it's you're going to experience it much more painfully, to use this plain terminology, much more painfully when you're alone in VR. Other people said no, it's going to be much more painful when we are with other people. So, or it's less invasive, less emotionally invasive when you're in VR, or it's more invasive. So this raises a question of how do because the being alone in VR, being alone is currently a somewhat critical issue in VR with respect to generalizing VR experiences to reality, right? Then another line of reasoning concerning this was, well, if you consider this as an artwork, that's going to make a difference. The alone versus social experience is going to be less invasive when you consider it to be an artwork versus when you consider it to be a realistic, like a journalistic piece of work. So these are like really critical, interesting issues about all this. So I'm taking that as an anecdote to present something we are currently doing together with Bernard also. We set up a somewhat complex experiment which addresses the issue of the social dimension of VR experience. So in this experiment, for which you will not see the slides, but I can easily describe it. So we have a bunch of, we have 3 conditions. Basically, people, the physical setup, the virtual setup is a pretty generic office environment, okay? But with this specificity, it has a door, it has a window. The door is sort of important. It has a door, it has a window, and it has artwork on the walls. So the artwork actually consists of 50 VR-generated paintings. Standard paintings, figurative paintings. They have people or not, they are landscapes or seascapes, they are single individuals or groups of people. And the participants are introduced in their VR in that room, and their task is to memorize the paintings. The paintings are presented at 3 seconds a painting. Now they're going to be tested on their memory for the paintings, but while they listen to the paintings, they also hear environmental sounds. And the environmental sounds can be like neutral, or they can be relaxing, or they can be alarming. Okay? So typical urban city environment. Okay? That's for the general setup. Then we have the condition of you being alone in you being alone in your HDM in VR, or you being together with somebody, with a real person like you, 2 people in VR, and of course each of them listening to the sounds and memorizing the paintings, and a 3rd condition where there is another avatar present. So that's the kind of environment, and that should allow. I can't give you results. You need a couple more weeks for that. We measure, of course, behavior, memory behavior, impact of the kind of sound on memory behavior. We measure the difference in conditions for memory and for reaction to sound in the 3 social, realistic social. Avatar, social, and alone. The setup also allows us to register minor movements, head movements and torso movements. For example, if you hear an alarm, are you going to turn to the person who is with you in virtual reality, or are you going to make a movement towards the door? So that's it's a very rich data set that we are looking into. And of course, we measure EEG and other physiology and a couple of other physiological measures. So, I mean, that addresses, I think, an important dimension of social VR, namely the importance of actually being alone or being with others in that context. So I hope on the next occasion to give you some results about that. But I said if we consult, and that's an important thing, because we have been discussing a bunch of things, and we tend to, of course, rely on our intuitions. But when we actually consult people's intuitions, as I told you in my anecdote, there is not a clear consensus on what would make the difference for viewing something positive or something negative in this case when you're in the presence of other people. Okay, so that's.
Okay, thanks a lot. So Beatrice presented the key question in social XR. Before we get into the discussion, I think, Rupert, you will give us a highlight of what you have been doing lately, and then we will introduce, I think, 2 major topics. But first, some background about your activities. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Doron. You can hear me well? So my name is Rupert Ortner. I'm with a private company called GTech. We are located in Austria, and we're specialized on, you can say, brain-computer interfaces. So we're specialized on measuring brain signals from different kinds, mostly the electroencephalogram, but also other kinds of brain signals, and then we're using it to detect the state or control machines with the brain signals. So what I want to show to you is our recent work about detecting emotions in real time from the brain signals. So the question, can we do this, was already, I think, answered today in other talks. So other speakers were already showing EEG data using in their studies. So the first thing you would like to do, you would need to do is, of course, to measure the EEG while using an XR VR headset. So this is the easy part. In the beginning, you could just use standard EEG headsets below the virtual reality headset, but we're also working on making this more integrated into the headset, so you don't have these two devices. We could have the electrodes in the headset, in the straps, if the positions fit. And would like to show you two recent publications we did. Here to detect emotions from the electroencephalogram. So we measured emotions in 2 dimensions. You have the arousal and the valence. And depending if the arousal and valence is high, for example, you would be happy. In this quadrant, negative valence and low arousal, you would be sad, and here is angry, and here is relaxed. So you have these 4 different kinds of emotions. And what we did to get data, you have to set the users into these emotional states. So what we did here is to use musicians, professional musicians, asking them to play music pieces in a certain state, happy, angry, and so on. And then measured the electroencephalogram and tried to see if we can detect the state from the electroencephalogram. And this is the publication. If you're interested in it, it's open source. Please feel free to read all the details. Just show you here now the results. So we did 2 kinds. We did a subject-dependent classifier, which means we had on each subject a set of training data and a separated set of testing data, but from the same subject, training a machine learning algorithm, and tested it on the testing set, and we reached a very high accuracy of, you see, 94, 95%, depending on which kind of machine learning approach we used. We used either EEG alone or EEG plus ECG, and you see results are very similar. The ECG here even made the result worse. And for the subject-independent classifier, we still could get high accuracy value using this classification method on EEG. Subject-independent means you train the machine learning algorithm on data of other participants and then test it on a participant's data that was not used to create the classifier. And what we also did is try to measure the engagement of persons using the EEG. So what we did here is also to train first on persons the engagement in a certain task and then try to classify it in other tasks if we can still see the engagement. So we did this D2 test for training and evaluation. D2 test looks like this. Maybe most of you know it. In the D2 test, you have to look on the list for each D that contains 2 spots. So you go through the list and say, yeah, this is correct, this has 2 spots, and this one would be a wrong one. So this causes high level of engagement in your brain signals that we can detect. And so we had a very high classification accuracy if we detect the same task, if we use the same task, D1 test for training and classification over a high number of subjects. And then if we try the same trained model on other tasks, like playing Tetris, of course, the accuracy got worse compared to before. So we have here the LDA scores in different modalities, and we see the higher the speed of Tetris was, the higher the scores towards correct classification went. And we did the same for watching videos, engagement, where we had non-engaging and engaging classified videos, and we see also here a positive score, so we were able to detect the engagement, but to be honest, not in a very high accuracy level. I think that's it. Thank you. A little bit of advertisement. If you're enthusiastic and want to measure EEG with virtual reality headsets, I recommend our Unicorn PCI core set. You can use our Python API and other predefined blocks to be quickly able to start setting up similar models like I showed you here. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. So I want to thank you, Rupert. And I want to start by asking you guys a question, and then we can open it to more opinions. But as I said, so many of us have been working in VR and social VR, as Beatrice, you mentioned, avatars or multi-user settings. And I think you've been doing a lot of research on body language and stuff like that, right? And my question to you is, so there has been this disruptive event called the AI, the deep neural network revolution. How does this affect your work, your research? Not in the sense that you use GPT to correct your emails or, I'm saying, do you think this makes you rethink some of the underlying questions or the methods in your research?
So far, not. Thanks for the question. It's of course a big one. So far, not so much in the questions, but that may come. But certainly in the methods to some extent. Like as you said, we work on nonverbal communication, and as we heard here, people tend to characterize verbal and also nonverbal behavior at a symbolic level. I mean, using semantic categories for emotions. Now we know that as far as the brain is concerned, we don't actually find those semantic categories in the brain, not in any common sense of it. So how do we bridge the gap between the language we use to describe social experiences, including the emotional categories we use in describing social experience, and what's actually going on in the brain? So in terms of what we do for nonverbal communication, what we have been trying the last 5 years is using AI methods to and give them as input videos of naturalistic body behavior, and trying to find out what actually what we call the mid-level characteristics are. That the mid-level, the mid-levels, I should say, not differences of, let's say, an angry body expression or versus a happy one. As I said, not in terms of semantics, but also not in terms of low-level physical characteristics like motion energy or so. So we're trying to use AI methods to find an in-between level, a functional level that is not semantic category and is also not the physical characteristics. And that would require, if I were to start that over again, that would require that you use huge databases, that you then try whichever computational model fits, and then what we do, we have bottom-up computational models, and then we test them against brain activity.
So I can make a quick comment here. It's a spoiler from research that is unpublished yet. I have 2 students working on a data set of romantic responsiveness. Again, it's not my field, I'm not a psychologist, but imagine a couple. It's actually studies with a lot of dyadic non-verbal gesture. And as you know, of course, one of the big revolutions in AI is the fact that it's also the feature engineering is done automatically. Okay? Unlike the previous types of machine learning and AI, where humans used to think about features, now we're talking about the AI itself, under certain conditions, if you do it properly, if it has enough data, come up with its own features. So I had two students who are computer scientists. One of them explicitly said, I want to save my marriage. I want to study this as a thesis. I want to understand how to be responsive to my wife. So incidentally, we found a very nice data set. And preliminary results, we have to double check it, maybe it's wrong, but we found that mirroring in the left hand is a very powerful signal. Now, it's probably going to take us another few months or years to understand if this is a bug or a feature, or but this is something, of course, that would not be a human hypothesis as far as I know, mirroring your left or non-dominant hand. We will find out, maybe it's a bug. Anyway, so this is just, now before we open this, I want to address the same question to Rupert. So I saw all kinds of things there that looked like, prehistoric, SVM, LDA,
Exactly.
I think this was before man invented fire. Right? No, I'm joking. Seriously, I know.
It's a good point.
I know, of course, we sometimes have to use, true and tried methods. But again, I'm curious in GTech in general, how did this revolution go for you guys?
It's a good point. Yeah, so these are classic machine learning approaches that are around for a long time. It depends on what you want to do, of course. It's not a surprise now. For example, we have a product where we do rehabilitation for stroke patients. There we use classic machine learning because the signal of each stroke patient is different. So in our sense, it doesn't make sense to train it on a big data set because you have to train the system on the patient's data. But you cannot always do this. So there's where the neural networks come into place. And for example, we would have a project called Mind Care where we do prediction, or we want to do early onset prediction of dementia. And there you cannot do this. You don't have the individual data. You need to have a big data set of patients who later on develop dementia and train your models on this data and see if you can find a way to detect with the help of neural networks markers of dementia already in the early onset.
So do you already have examples of success which came up using data-driven features or not yet? In
this project, yes.
So it's like automatic discovery of biomarkers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move to the complementary question, which I think is much more interesting, because again, it's a small panel and it's a small audience, I wonder if someone wants to, please, over there, the gentleman with the hat.
Thank you. Always a great topic. I have a question about methodology in the study of emotion. So, do you have evidence of convergence from multiple measures of emotion? Where is your gold standard? If you ask musicians, play me something happy, why should that be the gold standard of what is a happy piece of music and what it induces in people? So we need convergent measures. I'm not loud enough. And so, could you say something about that? And in the spirit of that, who believes in two dimensions of emotion any longer anyway? So you can have completely different things under those two dimensions of arousal and valence, and it's completely different emotions. So would you please address the question of methodology in the study of emotion?
Okay, let's take a notch down and try to relax. Deep breath, everyone. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Actually, it's better than falling asleep here. So we want to keep things alive. Thanks. Rupert, do you want to comment?
Sure. Thanks for the great question. In fact, we didn't only record data on musicians. We recorded the music and played it to listeners and try the same approach there to see if we can detect the same kind of emotions on people listening to the music that was classified by the musicians to be sad, angry, or whatever. But that's work still to come, but we will do it and publish it. Also, we have another project called MooseMet, which is the musical metaverse. It's also quite good to hear, where we will try to detect emotions in big audiences of listeners to music. This will be an interesting work to come. Not done yet, but looking forward to it.
But let me try to rephrase this question to Beatrice. You are a scholar of basic research of emotions, among other things. Do you think that AI can help us? You know, this has been, as you alluded in your comments, we have no idea what emotions are, especially if you go inside the brain, etc. So do you think AI can play a role not only in terms of methods, but also give us some hints?
The simple answer, I mean, the direct answer would be sure. I mean, we can throw AI and look, as you said, as you were asking for, some kind of conversions against a signature that combines EEG, heartbeat, skin conductance, all that together. We haven't done so far. It hasn't worked so far, but I'm sure people keep looking for that. My reply to that would be, I mean, I'm not interested in that because it's like looking to materialize, physicalize an abstraction. I mean, there is no, in common parlance, of course, we all know what happy and what fear is, but in terms of daily, of the reality of the behavior associated, there is not a single unique behavior pattern for each of those emotions. I mean, they are like abstractions. I mean, of course, there is literature where people have found that the area that does disgust, the area that does happiness, the area that does fear. But I mean, we've walked away, luckily, from that kind of reification of emotions. I mean, they are just convenient abstractions for everyday life. I mean, if you ask me whether I'm happy, I say sure, but do I know? I mean, there's just conversational conveniences, but there's just no reason why there should be a scientific reality to those conversational conveniences. Of course, you can do semantic networks. You can do any kind of sentiment analysis, which now you can combine your physiology with sentiment analysis, with computational, with AI of sentiment, etc., sure, but can't get very excited about that, me personally.
Okay, good. So now I want to turn it, I think it's a bit like the complementary question, which for me is very fascinating, and I've been thinking about it a lot in the last few years. And this is, so there are people here, again, you guys, and also I'm happy to open this to the audience, have been working on things like emotions, body, brain, also Olaf's talk today. And the question is now in the other area. Okay, so simply put, people when you talk to AI, when you talk about AI to the people outside the academia, now the first association is GPT, right? People are used to text with GPT. Of course, we know that there's much more there, and also GPT, people are starting to use voice interfaces. But when they think about AI now, the common the prototype of what AI means has changed, and now it's GPT for many people. And of course, it is disembodied, it's not situated in the world, does not have a body, does not have emotions. So now the interesting question is, from your studies on, well, we have to start with you because you started. So from your expertise of embodied cognition and emotions, what can you help these AI companies? By the way, they're giving up billions of dollars if you can help them in their tasks. So, what do you think you can teach them, or they can look at you or your research area?
I can make the bridge with actually the previous question because I should have added something, but it fits now. When we did some work on emotions, we have one study which turned out to be hell to publish because nobody actually likes the idea, and the idea is perfectly correct. I can tell you, nobody likes it. I always have minority views. We presented emotions in faces, voices, and body expressions. Okay, and the literature would have suggested that we would find one area who does that emotion. Okay, and we don't find that. We find a specific area for bodily emotions, for facial, for let's simplify, for bodily happiness, for vocal happiness, and for facial happiness. Now, if you think about it, that makes sense, because the circumstances under which you get that input are very different. You can see bodily fear or bodily happiness from a long distance. It has very little to do with personal identity, for example.
But let me just, let's
So,
try.
I mean,
Okay.
Since you talk about embodiment, I say take embodiment seriously then, and don't start at least by throwing all the senses together and looking for abstractions. Get into the concrete reality of embodiment.
No, but this is what I want to try to do. Maybe let's try to be concrete. So I'm now, let's say I'm an employee, a senior employee in OpenAI or in Anthropic. I'm still not sure if I want to give you this, $1 billion check, because I don't understand what exactly can you suggest. I mean, it's okay. I'm not saying it's an easy question, but do you think this kind of social neuroscience embodiment, your understanding of body language, or I will give you a hint, again, as I said, AI is disembodied. Do you think GPT, would it be useful if GPT had some of these abilities? Or what are the implications of GPT? This is before we get to VR, right? What are the implications of GPT not having a body? You can think about it, and maybe Rupert.
Yes, I mean, people talk about that question, but I confess to not understanding the question. But
okay. So basically, your response is to say, if again, which is fair enough, your response is if you're interested in AI, in developing, GPT-7 and GPT-8, our research has little consequences for you. I'm not sure that is again, I'm sorry if it's a difficult question. I'm not sure that this is the answer, but I actually wanted to take it further and complicate things and then put it in VR. But so maybe let's, before we go into VR, let's see if someone here in the audience wants to extend, wait. If someone else in the audience wants to comment, again, people who have been working on social VR, embodiment, avatars, body language, do you think that we, I don't know, Sylvia, Marco, can, also Janet, do we have something to offer to the AI community? Yes, Marco.
I guess I just want to support Beatrice's point about, looking at the real fundamentals of embodiment. I think that's actually what we're very good at in VR. That we think, people think VR is very much this whole totally embodied space, but actually we spend all our time thinking about the body and how we interact with virtual spaces. We have to, because, we can't take for granted the physicality of the world and how it will stimulate our senses. So I think that's not always been missing for AI, but I guess with the rise of LLMs, the LLMs, they have book learning, right? They just learn what you can learn from text. That's a lot, but it's not everything. So I think, looking at really thinking about embodiment, how people interact with AI, definitely virtual characters I've done a lot of work on, but also how we interact with the world, at both a high level but also a very low level.
So we don't have a lot of time to discuss this. I'll just give a hint. So one of the hottest zeitgeists in AI right now is called the era of experience, okay? Basically, again, I don't remember, you can Google it. I don't remember, it's something that a lot of the AI community are talking about. They say, okay, now it's time to have AI models that experience the world. That's it. We're done with data. We don't have, it's a long story, but one of the arguments is we have no more data. We used all the internet. So now we just have to have AI models that experience the world in this way or another. So I do think the communities are going to get very interconnected soon. This is my feeling. But then, I suggest all you guys, if you want to get a glimpse of what the AI guys are talking about, one of the interesting things is the era of experience. And there was a comment or a question here. Please, yes.
I have only one small comment, maybe two of them, that you're talking about embodiments. And I agree that we need body for AI, but we need to split AI for several goals, actually. So there is a AI who will help us in scientific research, so we don't need to have a body to do scientific research. For example, another one is if we need a robot who helps us in every scenario. For sure, we have to add the body. But you are talking about body, but also now we have lots of companies, robotic companies, who are working on it very tirelessly, and they have amazing progress right now. So now robot can do lots of stuff autonomously. They have GPT inside the brain, and they have information about body, can do lots of action. So for sure, it's important, and now lots of companies are working on it.
So
I don't understand. Maybe I don't
no,
understand.
No, it's fine. What I'm trying to do is, coming up again in the last few years, I've been spending most of my time in the AI community, now trying to bring it back to the VR community. And okay, I see, I can understand that I need to do a better job. It's fine, but we're talking about embodiment for things like GPT. The goal, again, I'm not saying this is about being right or wrong, okay? The way AI people see it, they're going towards generic intelligence, okay? So now the question is, GPT is very impressive in many things. It can help you in a lot of tasks, but it's limited. Now, the question is, would the fact that this GPT guy would have some kind of body or emotions or any stuff like that, maybe this is not only for a robot to fix your, the microphone here or to act in the physical world, but maybe this is also essential for an entity that you want to interact with on abstract things, okay? This is the point that I was trying to make, so that I was kind of assuming that it's agreed, but maybe, maybe we need more time to discuss this. I think we have a few minutes for more comments. Please.
It's actually a question about what you just said. Is it more important that a GPT has its own body, or is it more important that the AI system is capable of understanding that we have a body?
I love this question because this is exactly one of the dilemmas in my research group. What are we going to look at first? Because, and I think it has to be, it has to do with what you're interested in. If you're interested in the AI as an entity, as an autonomous entity, then there are very serious people now starting to think, what are we missing by this AI being only an abstract entity? But if you think as an AI, human as a hybrid, it's kind of, this smartphone that is now connected to us. Let's say that we have this intimate relationship with GPT. Maybe it doesn't have to have a body, but it needs to understand that we have a body and be aware of our bodily signals, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree. I think both of them are very interesting questions. And this is where I was thinking, okay, VR can be kind of a glue to ask all these questions, because there are different communities, but I see that the AI community is now reaching the conclusion that it's not enough to solve, chess, mathematics, abstract things. They want AI that can do many other things. And I think they are becoming closer and closer to the questions that we are asking in this community. But, okay, how are we doing on time? We're done, or do we have time for another comment for the gentleman with the hat? Okay, I think we should wrap up with you, please. Maybe your name and your background?
David Kirsch. I'm in the Cognitive Science Department at UCSD.
Okay, great.
I will mention 3 things. Skin in the game. So a robot might have skin in the game, but a person always has skin in the game. Something bad happens to you, a bad thing happens to you. LLMs, GPTs, they don't have that, even when they have multimodality. 1, you don't get any theory of emotion unless you have skin in the game. 1. 2, situated embodiment. What does that mean? I go to dinner, I have a lovely meal. What's it like to be situated at the meal place having a delicious meal? You don't get that by duplicating modalities. You may, if you can have, concepts of value that are based on some kind of sensory definitions, but those are just definitions. They are not the situated embodiment of this angle, this social interaction. All these things are vital for a proper analysis of social interaction, by the way. 3rd one, I would say, is personal meaning. So the 4th dimension of emotion is personal meaning. When somebody who belongs to Mercedes-Benz goes into the central Mercedes-Benz building and they see the giant Mercedes-Benz crest and they see the shape of the building, their experience of that is very different than somebody else. Somebody from the CIA goes into the CIA and they see the wall of dead CIA people. Completely different than my experience if I go in there. What's that? That's a 4th dimension called personal meaning of emotion after, of course, control. So those 4 dimensions differentiate anything currently done in AI because AI is based on a different valuation function. And this is necessary for alignment.
Okay. Actually, I think these are very good points. Thanks a lot. I
Very
find them
generous.
very meaningful. But I think, obviously, these are very difficult topics that we will not wrap up today in this short afternoon. But hopefully next year we'll do a better job and come with answers to figure out how our social XR activities can be meaningful to the AI revolution and not only vice versa. Thank you very much.